Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today we are getting back on track and revisiting the bottom 10 played tech tree tanks in the Cold War game mode in World of Tanks Modern Armour. So we've covered 2 so far. This is the third of 10 that we're going to be covering. First one was the Chinese Type 63 Era 2 light tank. Second one, Type 88A. Chinese Era 3 medium. And it's probably not escaped your notice at this point that this is the Type 85I, which is another Chinese Era 3 medium. I did say in the very first video in this series that there was a trend, and I'm guessing that by at this point I'm guessing you guys have worked out what the trend is. And this trend, it's my feeling towards this trend is that it's a bit of a shame, really, because it raises this question: if these tanks are the bottom 3 played tanks in the entire Cold War game mode for tech tree tanks, I mean, if these are the bottom 3 across the whole of Cold War, that must mean they're crap. That must mean these are terrible tanks. And I could understand, if that's what you think, I get it. I understand where you're coming from with that. But the problem I have with that conclusion is that I don't think these are bad tanks. I think they've just been overshadowed by the tanks that have come out more recently. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the Type 85I and compare it to its counterparts. And well, first of all, we'll go over the conversation that I've had with various people, and I'm sure most of you guys have had this conversation too with friends of yours that are getting into the game, or anyone new that's just asking the question. A very standard question is, what line should I play first? What heavy should I get first? What light tank should I get first? What should I do first? That's a very typical question for this game. And when it comes to mediums, Era 3 mediums, the problem gets highlighted very, very quickly. If you talk about Era 3 mediums, people will talk about the AMX-40 or the Magax 7C. It could even go as far as some people not even knowing that the Type 85I is even a contender. This tank is just not talked about. It's clearly barely played by anyone. But why is that? Let's take a look at the stats and see if we can understand what's going on here. So, let's look at the gun. The Type 85I, 605mm of pen on standard, 650mm of pen on gold. That's pretty good. AMX-40, 526mm on standard, 633 on gold. Okay, alright, so Type 85, yeah, it's winning. It's better by, not by a huge amount, but it's better than the AMX. Magax 7C, 538mm of pen on standard. Okay, that's, it's standard, fine, but it's low. It's very low compared to the standard on the Type 85I, but it's got secondary ATGMs, which have 800mm of pen. We're starting to see where the differences are showing up here. Type 85, 480 alpha on standard and gold. AMX-40, 520 alpha on standard and gold. 7C, 460 on standard, 1025 on its ATGM. So just from the gun alone, yes, the Type 85 has this amazing pen. Brilliant pen on gold rounds. Fantastic. But the alpha is low. And that's the start of this thing's problem. Yes, you've got amazing alpha, but there are other things out there that are like, nah, that's just a bit better. And when I look at it, I think, well, yeah, the 7C might not have the best standard pen. It's good enough. It might not have the best standard alpha. But it's got that ATGM with 800 mil of pen and over 1000 of alpha. I think I'll take the 7C, thanks. Type 85 has 3600 hit points. Both the AMX and the 7C have 3650. Starting to slip. Type 85, 66 kilometers an hour top speed. AMX 40 is clearly the winner. 76. 7C, 72. Oh, it's slipping. It's slipping. 85 is slipping. View range in the 85, 540. View range in the AMX, 565. And the same for the 7C. Slipping again. Oh, it's... Yeah, it was good for pen, but everything else is kind of balancing it out now. Type 85. Moving concealment, 411 meters. AMX, 412. Magax 7C, 449. So yeah, okay, you can statistically boast the best concealment of all the mediums, all the top mediums in Era 3. But it's not good enough, really, to say that it's better than the AMX, for example. And that right there is the problem that I think these tanks have. Are they bad? No. No, they're not bad. We did 9,000 and something damage in that previous game. Nobody will look at that result and go, that was a bad game. Nobody would say, this is a bad tank because you can't perform well in it. You can. This tank can pull in some fantastic results, as we've just demonstrated. But if you're a new player, or just a player who's transitioning from World War II into Cold War, or you're dabbling in Cold War, or you're, like I've mentioned before, you're new to Cold War, if you ask somebody, hey, which medium should I get? The conversation is going to be AMX 40 versus Magax 7C. It's going to be, do you prefer autocannons or do you prefer ATGMs? That's what the conversation is going to be. Hands down, no questions asked. That conversation is not going to mention the Type 85i once. This tank will not be mentioned in that conversation, even though it is at the same era, same tier. It's there. It's at the same level. But this tank just will not feature because the other tanks outshine it. Yes, it's got this amazing pen, but really, when it comes down to it, what really matters is that's it. That's all this thing has got going for it. Penetration. This isn't a game of top trumps, so saying that you've got 411 meters of concealment and the AMX has only got 412, you're not going to go, haha, I beat you, I win. Like, no. Sorry, that's not enough for the game. The Type 85, it's just outshined. It's got the pen, it doesn't have the alpha, doesn't have the autocannon, it doesn't have the ATGM, it doesn't have the hit points, doesn't have the speed, it doesn't have the view range. It's just lacking. And as if that weren't enough nails in its coffin, the shot that you saw me take just there, the Leclerc T4, I had to break through the fence and peek my nose down the cliff face slightly just to get the gun depression. It's limiting. It is just limiting. It's got 6 degrees of gun depression, and that is, it's not terrible, but when you compare it to the AMX that has 7 and the Magax 7C that has 9, again, you're seeing why this tank doesn't show up in conversation. Is it bad? No. Is the Type 88A bad? No, it's not. Is the 85i bad? No, it isn't. But it's just outshined by the 7C and the AMX 40. And what, I'm not really sure what can be done to raise the profile of these tanks. They are... I don't think the solution is to buff them, because if you were to buff them, we would just be encouraging more power creep in the game. We would be saying the way to balance tanks is to power creep them. I don't think that's what needs to happen here. Maybe they don't need to be buffed at all. Maybe their profile just needs to be raised. Maybe it just needs to be advertised as, hey guys, this tank is more of a challenge than the others. Maybe some people will want that. I don't know. I have no idea. But we're about to school a weasel here who's got himself all kinds of stuck and turned around. He didn't want to find himself here. I've rammed him. I've put a couple of shots into him, and yeah, he got T-boned there. Yeah, Weasel's not surviving that. So there you go, guys. This game is coming to an end. Speeding up this last part here. I head off in the wrong direction. I assume the last light tank's over there, but he's not. He's way off in B3. The Chinese mediums in Era 3. The story seems to be that they are just outshone. They are stuck in the shadow of the AMX-40, AMX-32, Magak 7C and the 6B. It is what it is. They're not bad, but they are just not as good as their era counterparts. Same tier, same era. They're just not as good. Simple as that. Alright guys, that's all I've got for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.